Freedom Junkies. I'm really excited about this week's upload, and so I'm going to give you a little bit of a preview of a little explanation of what's going on here. A long time ago, I interviewed Ariel Rose of New Earth Rising. She's just such a pure channel, such a clear heart. She's done the work. She's giving gifts to this world selflessly. And she called me a few days ago, or contacted me, and asked if I would do some lives with her. We don't know what this is about. We don't know where this is going, but I'm really excited about that invitation and about doing it because we're stepping into the unknown constantly. This is this new place where people are trying to create it. They're trying to create community, trying to create freedom cells in a new earth. And there's no roadmap for that. There's no guidebook. We're creating it, walking blind into it. And so what do? And there's people doing stuff all over the world, beautiful people who are trying to create a different way of having a life here on this planet, not the way we've been programmed that it needs to be. I heard a man say that the greatest scam ever pulled off on humanity is government. We've been doing it for millennia. Along comes a person who says, I'm going to be your leader. Give me a bunch of money, pay your taxes, I'll protect you. And they don't. And but I'm going to be your leader, which means I get to tell you what to do. And if you break what I tell you to do, then, I can chop your head off or something. It's always been this way. And if the people would stand up and say, I'm not available, not so much, not going to do it, then we wouldn't be in this predicament that we're in the entire planet. So we've got to shift. And I'm giving a little intro to this week's upload for Freedom Junkie Radio because the first 10 minutes of it got cut off. It's Ariel's channel on Telegram where we're doing the lives. Today, it was Monday, May 2nd or 3rd? We did it at 2:30 Central Standard Time. She's in California, so it was 12:30. And we're recording them, and I'm going to post them on Freedom Junkie Radio, but they're live on her Telegram channel, which is New Earth Rises. So at New Earth Rises. Mine is at Freedom Junkie Radio. And so we're just jumping off and going with it. She and I are very different people, very different personalities, but it just feels right. And we don't know where it's going. We don't know why it's happening, but it is. And the synergy between the two of us is what's allowing it and making it happen. So I hope you enjoy it. And I'd love to hear some feedback because we're just holding each other's hands as we blindly go and helping each other the best we can. So blessings. And I hope you enjoy this. In the system that we have. And when you just said recognizing in yourself that you were authoritarian, I don't think truly authoritarian types are ever, kind of the narcissistic types. I don't think they're ever going to see that. And those types are going to continue to be born and be among us. So they're never going to, no, that's that mom or that cop, who's like, I told you to do that. Now you're in trouble, and it's like, okay, hold on. So those of us who want to be free have to just not participate, really.
Yeah. You don't feel like we can ignite. I mean, I feel like I've seen moments, I see glimmers and people. I mean, there was so much in what was going on up in Canada in the with the truckers, and I don't know if you watched any of the face off that was happening, like when the police were there, but I was just captivated by that. And there were so many moments where it was like you could see these protesters like in the eyes with the police, and the police were there, holding their, Darth Vader stance of like, I'm here to be whatever. And they were just, I mean, there was one woman in particular who had her camera on one of the cops and had we were like sending him messages through her live stream, and she was reading them to him. So the whole world was like talking to this cop, and you can see his eyes shifting, and he moved to the back. There was an element of there's something. I just feel like there's an element. There is something. I mean, yes, they're not gonna like willingly, like none of us willingly acknowledge when we've been jerks. None of us willingly, like, oh yeah, like I did terrible things throughout. Like that's not what we are excited and willing to do. But we are going to, like, when we're faced with something that's pretty intense. I mean, that cop went home and he went to sleep, or he didn't go to sleep. He went to bed and laid there with his eyes open going, oh crap, what did I sign up for? I don't know if this is worth time and a half. Like, that was a young woman with her, kid in her arms.
So this leads me to what can we do individually? We're talking about, like, you talk about groups and freedom cells and getting together and what are people doing, but that's looking outside yourself.
Yeah.
And nothing's going to happen. You're going to look for an authority figure to tell you what to do. And that's not where it comes from. So let's kind of dovetail into what you can do individually, personally, to create the world, because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take all of us. So that whole, first of all, recognizing that you're responsible for it all, taking responsibility.
Yeah.
And if you're still blaming anyone for anything, you're not going to take one step forward. Right. So if you're hearing this and that resonates with you, if you're thinking, okay, well, no, I do blame, because I look around and look like, well, no, look what happened to me. This is why my life is the way it is. On some level, you have to recognize that you, just by incarnating, you signed up for other people behaving badly. And so that's going to happen in your life. That's humanity. You're going to step around all kinds of big messes and piles of crap, and you're going to get stuck in them. And we chose to come, and some people can't get around that. I have a friend who's a staunch atheist who's like, I just biologically ended up on the planet. I'm like, well, you still have to take responsibility for the life you're creating for yourself. And at some point, our parents have a lot to do with kind of how screwed up we are as adults, but we have to forgive them for that and recognize, I like to think I chose my parents. I like to think I chose this life. That makes me feel in control, that internal locus of control. And when you have the internal locus of control, then you're taking your own power. You're saying, I am in control. If you're feeling like someone else has power over you, whether that's your spouse or your parent or your government or your boss, then you need to shift. You will not be a sovereign individual creating your life. You're going to constantly look around you and think, this is what's happening, and it sucks. And so you have to take responsibility, and part of that is to forgive all those people. That's the second step, is forgiving. I'm going through my workher right now.
Yeah, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Can we plug your book then?
Yeah.
Betsy is her book it's at the publisher. Is that correct?
Right now.
Mm-hmm. And it's got the best title in the whole wide world. It's my new mantra. Take life by the horns, right?
Yep.
And that's, I mean, what does that mean? Like, it's everything.
We are the creators of our reality. And I know that everyone who is here right now or is going to hear this knows that. That's not new information. And now for some people it is. When you first think that, you're like, well, I didn't create this. Well, no, you did. And so you take responsibility and you're creating it from here on out. And as you take that responsibility, it feels so good. You're like, okay, now what do I do? I read one this morning. It said, you're either getting paid for the decisions you made a while ago, or you're paying for those decisions.
Yeah.
So the decisions you make right now. So if you just slough off, like take a deep breath and just say, I am responsible. Take that first. Some of you may already be there. You're like, heck yeah, I did that. Let's go on to the next thing. But if you're still stuck there, that's the first step. You have to take responsibility for your life and say, it's me. I did it. I'm doing it. I'm creating it. Let's go. Right. And then a lot of that, part of that is the forgiveness of those people who did things to you or created the environment you're in that you don't like, the trauma that you may have experienced. the pain, the suffering,
Yes.
anything. And you also have to look to that pain and suffering and trauma and be grateful for it,
Yeah.
because that's the only way that, for instance, the only reason I know any of this is because of my own pain and suffering and trauma. Without it, I wouldn't know that it was my crucible. It forged me. Without it, I wouldn't have anything to overcome. And
Right.
so by overcoming it and feeling like a complete badass, like, well, if I can overcome that and I can know that I am worthy and I am awesome and I am, I, okay, here's my favorite song right now. It's not new, but it's by Sia and it's The Greatest. And I was listening to it a year ago and I heard her say, I'm free to be the greatest here tonight. I'm free to be the greatest here tonight. And I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh, that's spicy, like, okay, I'm going to try that one on. And then I didn't realize until I listened to it for like the 30th time. I was driving in my car listening to it really loud. And she says, I'm free to be the greatest one alive. I'm free to be the greatest here tonight, the greatest alive. And
Yeah.
and that's not in a conceited way, not like I'm the greatest. It's what if I were the greatest person on the planet? What would I do? I would be humble. I would be kind. I'd be forgiving and thoughtful. I'd work hard. I'd be strong and fit. And I would empower others. And what if we were all walking around the planet being the greatest one on the planet? That's the planet I want, right? So that's why I'm going to help teach this stuff, So
Awesome.
I'm going off in a million directions, but taking responsibility and creating your life and so all the affirmations, everything you need, saying, I am responsible, forgiving all those people that ever did anything, being grateful for it all. Grateful for it all. My grandmother said, you got to be grateful in all things. And she told a story about how if you're driving down a 2-lane highway and you're in a hurry, you've got to get somewhere and you're late, and some slowpoke pulls out in front of you. And I've gotten good at this. Thank you. I don't know why. I don't know why the universe just put a slowpoke in front of me. It could be, I'll never know. Chances are I'll never know. There could have been a cop up there and I was speeding and he just saved me from being even later and getting a ticket. Or there could have been a big rig going through the intersection and he just saved my life. So when you in the runes, it's Nafiz, the rune of adversity. When you can look upon the rune of adversity with a smile, then you've really arrived at that place. Like, okay, the adversity in my life, I'm grateful for it. And there's this serenity that comes over you. And so taking those steps and then walking out into life and then I want to hear you talk about just the intuition, then following your own intuition. As soon as you take your own responsibility and saying, okay, what do we do? Well, there's no roadmap. We don't know what the next step looks like. We're here together.
Yeah. Well, and also what comes to mind listening to you speak is just how scary it is. Like, what does it mean to take radical self-responsibility? Like, to actually take life by the horns, like to recognize how fully responsible we are for this circumstance, down to like even like the dark having corrupted, like whatever, all like there. Prior to all of this COVID happening, I had this sense that it was like I had helped write this world that didn't make sense. And so it was like, how do I, so it's always been for me about navigating out of this world that doesn't make sense. But I knew that I was part of creating it. So COVID came and it was like, okay, well, why did I create that? Like, I mean, not just me, we created this, we wrote this script. So why did we write this? What was the point of it? And it's because of the pressure it creates. The pressure is just unbelievable. I mean, if you it's piss or get off the pot, like we have to step up. We're we're either gonna fall into the river and go downstream with this nonsense that's happening, or we're gonna figure out how to take life by the horns. We're gonna figure out how to stand in ourselves. And what does that mean? And it's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying, because if we're responsible for everything that's been happening, then we're also responsible for fixing it. And it's just scary. It's scary to recognize that we have the ability to step up in these situations. So there is something about, for me, intuition, it's about getting into that smaller, it's like, I mean, it can be a big move, and I hear those big moves moving through you, like this book is this fantastic, but it's also just, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I was like, went back to my car, like went back to my house 4 times before I left. And then, and then you go down and you just happen to, like, your friend, like somebody you hadn't seen in ages is coming out of the store as you're going in. And it was like, if I had been there 5 minutes earlier or 5 minutes late or whatever it is, there's some kind of connection that wouldn't have happened. And I just feel like there's so much. So it's about like, for me, it's about like allowing smaller motion, like getting out of the head, getting out of like figuring out, or I should be there, I have to be there, or that time, like you're saying, going down the highway, it's like that time, I have to be there at this time. It's just, allowing the what happens if you show up a little later, or what happens if you, like maybe there was a connection in some other way. And I just, there's something about like being curious, being open, like what's going to happen if I just allow myself to go, into the heart-led motion in this moment, and what magic will emerge when I step in that direction. And it happens all the time. I mean, there's days like when I'm in the heart space, since the beginning of COVID, I'm in a very, people are into it around here. And I can tell, like, when I'm in resonance, when I've been, doing, dropping into the heart, doing my breath work, doing whatever it is that I need to do that grounds me and puts me all the way in, I'll go out for a walk, and everybody I see will be, bright-eyed, no masks, smiling. They'll be in the new earth with me. They'll be in that vibration. And then when I go, when I'm in a funky space and I'm just like, I just need to get out and go, and I'll go, and like everybody I'll see will be wearing a mask and they'll hop out of the way, when you walk past. I mean, it's just so it's very clear that getting into that heart space and listening to the intuition is what draws in the world that I want to be part of. And the opposite is also true. Like, if I don't do that, I get to be part of a world that I don't want to be part of. And so, I get to make that choice in each moment. And that's the nice thing, is I don't have to make the choice. I know some people say it's a big choice and you have to make it right now, but I get to make the choice each moment. I get to make the choice every day. And then when I make the wrong choice, I get to actually make that choice again, the next time. So it's, there is no forever in this moment. It feels like we're constantly being asked to step into the new earth with each, with each moment, with each breath, with each, obstacle or option that comes our way.
Well, I think that something you just touched on is, well, there's a lot of things. You talked about fear, and you talked about forcing things, and you talked about magic. And so the fear was the first thing. When it's scary, it's something you're supposed to do. Now, not scary like lion jumping out of, behind a tree, not that kind of scary, like, I've got to jump, I have to take this step into the unknown, and that's what we're all going to be doing. I love this, that we don't know what the new earth looks like. We don't know what we're creating. So there's no roadmap, there's no guidebook. It is the unknown. So your intuition is the thing, and it is scary, and you feel it in your gut. And when the gut gets those butterflies, and you can tell if it's negative butterflies or positive butterflies, you can just feel it, you just know. And when it's that positive butterflies that's like, yee, and it's scary, it's so calling you and saying, you've got to do this, so just do it. What do you have to, if you're late, I don't like being late, but I also don't want to force anything. If something's being forced, it is not right. I can feel that. I know that. And that's that intuition that I trust entirely. So I feel lucky that I have that ability, that I nurtured that along the way. And then the magic, what's happening right now, when you went out, a real clear channel with love in your heart, and that's why I was so excited to do this live with you, that we think we're going to do once a week now or something, because I know you're a clear channel. I don't know you very well. We've talked, I interviewed you on Freedom Junkie Radio, and I know you're a clear channel. I know you've got your intentions are good. I can feel it. I know it. And so I'm on board. And when you went out with those loving vibes, you saw love everywhere. And when you went out kind of
Mm.
in an irritated mood and then that's what you see. I think this is hitting me really hard these days. I
Mm.
think we are far more magical creatures in
Yeah.
our ability to create than we
Yeah.
have any idea.
I
Because,
think so.
and I think the people I've been talking to are saying they're feeling that quickening as well. Things are
Yeah.
happening like magic, like boom, 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 boom. If you think it, so you have to be really careful what you're thinking, really careful
Mm.
what you're doing and writing and projecting. So get clean, get clear, join us. You know, we need the forces. We need everybody to take personal responsibility, personal sovereignty. If you
Mm.
need to shake off an addiction, if you know there's something that's totally in your way, there's no going forward without, you can't step over it, you can't step around it, it's in your way. Do that work. Do the work. You'll be so happy. I gave up alcohol 3 years ago, and it's the only way that all the magic's happening now. And I knew that. I told you that the other day when we were
Mm.
discussing doing this.
Mhm. Mhm.
There was everything in the world was telling me, if you don't give up the alcohol, you're not going anywhere. And it was true. I mean, how can you be, starting to drink at 5 o'clock in the afternoon every day and get anywhere? So,
Yeah.
and I know there's a lot of people like that. I know there's a lot of people that are struggling with an addiction,
Mhm.
and it just consumes you. It takes too much of your time and your energy and your self-esteem. And you just, it's hard work, but it's the best work. It's true that there's nothing worthwhile in this world that's not hard work.
Yeah.
So, I just got off on a little tangent there, but if you're wanting to create your world, you got to get your housekeeping done. Get that clear so that you can be a clear channel for
Absolutely.
this magic. That's what I was talking
Yeah.
about. I was talking
Yeah.
about the
Yeah.
magic. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. Like, I don't know what's going to happen because we're doing this.
Yeah.
We were talking about that. Something giantly magic is going to happen. And I
Mm.
just feel like I almost could like get a little Harry Potter wand and be like, I want to see my spirit guide, and just they'd show up,
Yeah.
it's that crazy how the magic is.
There is the magic is pretty well. I especially like I've been noticing. I don't know for probably about 2-3 weeks. Like the consistency of the angel numbers. First of all, like every time I'll go. So my stove on my clock stove is wrong. And, the phones are always correct. And then my car is also wrong. Like I don't care that much about time. So it's like close enough, I guess when I set them. And like I go out, like I'll look on my phone, I'll pick it up, it's 11:11. Then I'll go like 4 minutes later to my kitchen or something, and I walk in and it's 11:11, and then I grab my keys and go, and then I get out to the car and it's 11, and it's just this kind of consistent thing. But it's not just, it's not just that, but it's everywhere. But what I've been really amazed with the past couple of weeks even is it's really sped up in how it's like something will come through that's like not good news, something, it's another hiccup, it's something else that needs to be cleared, whether it's internal, external. Like there's all these hiccups that are coming, and they seem to be coming fairly consistently. But what happens is they come quickly, and then it's like I just set my intention to heal it and clear it, and it's gone. I mean, there's been a couple of times where I set up appointments to go and get healing from somebody, or to receive some sort of help for this thing that I think is going to be, it's something in the past that would have like knocked me on my butt. And it's like, nope, it's gone by the time I get there. So then I'm like, okay, well, let's do something different. And then it's fun because the healing, actually, you get to go into like a higher place. You're not, sweeping the floor. You're actually like getting to get, creative, or, it's a higher level of healing. So then it can actually go out, as opposed to like, scrubbing the pans or whatever, that kind of work. So that's an interesting, the magic is incredible. And it's like, and what does that mean? Like, if we figure out how to do that, so just my intentions clear these, these things that are coming into my space at this point. So if the intentions can do it that quickly with just like, what's going on in my body, like what happens if we start doing that in the real? Like, what does that look like in our communities? Like, what does that look like in our interactions? What does that look like as we step out into the world? and that's where we get to take life by the horns, right? I mean, that's where it's just this, you know, it just feels like it's going to propel us into these beautiful interactions and these beautiful, you know, synchronicities that are just going to, you know, send us forward into new unexpected you know, experiences and options.
That's part of the fun, is setting your intentions and doing your best to create the life that you want to create. You know, you take the steps, you slough people off that aren't serving you, you move to a different place, you take some risks, you do the work, the inner work, the affirmations, the I am worthy of everything this world has to offer. I am no better or no worse than anyone, but I am an incredible light being here on this planet. And you do all that work and you're creating what you think you want, even all the visualizations, right? You can do the visualizations of down to who am I, what is the best me, and what am I doing? What do I want my day to look like, right? But then you go out and allow the co-creative universe to come and surprise you with these magical things. They're even better than what you thought. Because I mean, I'm really limited. I'm only, you know, in my I'm limited to what I've been exposed to what I can imagine. And the universe is infinite.
Yeah.
So much fun.
So what would you say? Sorry if my cat's meowing. She's been loud. But what would you say, like with your book, what for people that are just like stepping into this idea of taking life by the horns, like what's a good first place to start? Like, where is it? Intention? Is it, where would
you have to take responsibility for everything in your life. That's the first step. I am responsible for it all. And it's hard to believe at first. You don't want to take responsibility, or you think, well, I'm not. But you are. And that's the thing. As long as you are placing responsibility with someone else, you don't have any power. You've disempowered yourself. You've given your power away. So, and it's hard. It's hard to say I'm responsible. I mean, I've gone so far through that work where I'm responsible for everything. Just like you said, you were saying we're responsible for this crap situation that we've all gotten, that we've got set up. I loved it that you said that, because you're in a place of already having taken responsibility for everything, right? So I've thought about that, because back when I was doing it, it was war in the Middle East. It wasn't war in Ukraine, right? It's like, okay, how am I responsible for that? Because I am. Well, I'm responsible for that because I'm not over there doing anything about it. I'm allowing, you know, not that I can do everything. I can't. I don't even think we're supposed to know about all that stuff in the world. I think it's you know, too much information. Yeah. But when you take responsibility and go, I am responsible. I love that you said on some etheric level, we're responsible for the state of the planet. Like we did this in former lives or something, you know? So even go there. You may not understand how you're responsible for it all, but when you take that responsibility, think that's a leader. A leader stands up and goes, I'm the leader of all these people. I have to be responsible for them. I didn't do all the crap they're doing, but I'm responsible for it. It's like a mom, you know, your kid steals something from the neighbor. It's like, well, I got to go take responsibility. I didn't do it, but I'm responsible. I had the kid, you know, on some level. So that's another trick is, you know, when you're looking at a situation in your life and thinking, how am I responsible? Well, like I said earlier, you incarnated and that's how. You came, so you're responsible for all of it. And so that's the first step. If you can do that, if you can get into that place of I am responsible for everything, suddenly there's a lightness about your being. Yeah. Because you're in power. Yeah.
Well, and I think that it does come in as, I mean, I was it you that posted the Ubuntu idea, and but just this I am you, like if you're suffering, I mean, I can enjoy life, but I can't possibly fully elevate myself if you're still suffering. And so there is something as I am you. So this is happening in our world. You know, I'm part of that. Like, you know, whatever it is, I don't know how. I don't know how. I really don't. It doesn't make sense. But I remember hearing about some of the horrific, you know, SRA trafficking stuff years and years ago. And it was like hearing that it was like there were people like, yeah, I don't know, that doesn't sound real. And it was like I just knew instantly it was. And at that point I couldn't get into the details of it. It was like, oh, that makes sense. That's how they're harvesting our energy. That's, like that's why the world is such a strange place. Like it didn't make sense to me that the world would be in such a dense place without somebody who actually understood energy working against the masses. And so there's something in that, and like, okay. And when you start to realize that,
there's a sweetness about our innocence when we come here.
yeah.
You don't teach your 4-year-old about that there's satanic people in the world and that they drink blood. You don't do that. You allow them to have their innocence. So at what point in our lives the veils start to come down? I think it's they say around age 9, you have your first little veil come down. Then as a teenager, you start to see the world for what it is, and you kind of get pissed. You're like, really? Yeah. And so then you get a little moody because you're like, I thought the world was Easter bunnies and, jelly beans. And it's not. Those jelly beans aren't even good for you.
Yeah.
They're poison. Oh, great. Like, what else are you going to tell me now? Right. So that's when that awakening thing that is happening to so many people that we need to have so much compassion for. When you start to have the awakening happen, you're just the rug gets pulled out from you completely. You're like, okay, what else have I been lied to about? Where is it going to come from? What is this? And then, it's so beautiful that we come into this world as these perfect, beautiful creatures of innocence and light that the rest of us want to protect. But at some point, we're going to allow you to know that this planet is a planet of duality, and there's some really, really, really bad stuff. And at some point, we have to be adult enough to open our eyes to it and go, okay, well, I've got to know what's happening. And it makes you sick and you can't sleep.
Yeah.
And then you move through.
And there's something about that contrast. Oh, go ahead.
Well, we're choosing light, but you can't choose light. You're born light, but you can't choose light until you see that you could choose darkness, that there is darkness.
Yeah. Well, and if we were all, if we all came in and we stayed in that state forever, that's the other thing, is that it would be, it would be beautiful. It would be a heaven experience on earth, but there is something some of the most incredible art comes out of the most oppressed situations, and it's like the human spark, the more the pressure, the brighter the spark, the brighter the light, the brighter the heart of the diamond. That's the lotus flower that only really thrives in sewage water. There's something in that of needing that pressure, to get us into that
flower.
No, you don't know about that flower?
The one that really does great in sewage? No, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's lotus, right? Or it's at least like muddy, murky, and it's like 1,000 petals that just opens up. And that's that's the symbol for enlightenment in Eastern culture, is this, 1,000 petals opening out of this sewage situation. And that's what we're doing. We're opening and we're unfolding, and we're, figuring out how to continue to, even if we don't expand beyond and we just hold our light, that is a huge thing in this time. As the pressure is so intense, to not succumb to the pressure is a huge, huge act in itself. And that in itself makes our gift and our heart song and our light brighter. Just because the dark has gotten darker, it's like, the lighting a match in the darkest of rooms, it feels so bright. It doesn't have to be a full-on, LED lamp. It can just be a match, and it's enough when you've been sitting with no light. And that's what I think we're doing. It's just anchoring and holding that.
So people can recognize, it's so great that people are coming together and trying to figure out community and freedom cells and how we're going to do a parallel earth and all that. But without each one of us, without a vast majority of us finding our inner sovereignty and our inner light, and that's all you have to do. And I think people are stuck in communities where they're the only one that's awake and they don't know what to do. And and they've lost a lot of friends, and they knew all along that they intuited that there's no way anyone's injecting me with anything, and long before we knew anything about it. And if you just, and there's a lot of lonely people, there's a lot of people losing people right now, people are dropping off the planet and or moving on. I mean, they did what they needed to do, and so there's a lot of pain and sadness, and I just want for, what can you do? Well, you work on that inner light, because it's in there. It's in there. And we all know it. No matter how dismal things can seem or can get. And when you start working on just that, like you're saying, even if it's just you, then the magic can start to happen too. You'll light the way for someone else. You'll start to draw someone to you. You'll get an idea, So don't give up hope, and create the whatever it means for you to create your life. And there's so many new things, like this whole breath work thing. Like I didn't even hear of breath work until a year ago. Well, all of us breathe all the time. So what's the deal? It's an easy way to create a meditative space. I love it, because meditation was always really hard for me, because it's the act of doing nothing, thinking nothing, doing nothing. It's really hard for people that have been raised, not raised, but have been immersed now in quickly edited things that we watch on, everything. I mean, any video you watch. So breath work, you're doing something. You're thinking about how long you're holding, you're breathing in, how long you're holding the breath, how long you're letting the breath out, breathing or slowing your breath, or speeding up your breath, or leaving your breath out as long as you can, oxygenating your body so much. And after 10 or 15 or 20 minutes, or however long the breath work session is, you're buzzing with energy. And that's just a suggestion. There's so many things you can do to clear and clean and move things, baths with salts and intentions, clearing. And if people aren't aware of how important it is to set their protections, because it's so easy for us to get invaded, even if it's just by someone's thoughts, So be sovereign.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. Thank you. So I'm wondering, we've been on for about 45 minutes. I'm wondering if you want to have any kind of parting, what's your last little thing? We can do this again and pick it up, but I feel like it's nice to have it kind of bookended. And what do you think? Do you have something you want to put out, like a wish or some last message for this moment?
Well, I think that, so this was Ariel's idea, to just come together and talk about and have other people on as well, just so that there's we don't even really know where it's going to go or why this is happening. So I'd like to say that if anyone who listens to this or found this somehow would respond, that'd be great. So we would know what the response is. Because the idea obviously is a offering, a gift of so how that was received would be nice to know. And then I think everything I just said is what I'd want to end with, is just, and I want to know what you're going to end with too, because you and I we have so many things that crisscross in our, and the things we've come across in our knowledge, but we come from such different places, and we are such different people. And so I love the way you express your connection to the divine and how open you are with that. And that's so precious to me. That's why I followed you and fell in love with you. So I want you to end it. But what I would give people is just take your sovereignty and take responsibility for your life. Forgive the people that have ever harmed you, and give thanks for that harm. Give thanks for whatever they gave you, because it was all a gift. And breathe and know that it's the best is truly on the way. The best is yet to come. We're creating it, and we're going to get there. And there's dark times, and it's going to be dark. I don't think we're through the worst of this. But we are going to be the ones that are lighting in the way. You call it the way showers, right?
Way showers. Yeah.
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 So you need to own that. You're going to be a way shower, and so own it. Own
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, I think my I would say that my hope for people is that they can work towards letting go of trying to figure this out, letting go of gathering information and proof and facts, and just learning to cultivate a child's curiosity about this. Because it's my experience that the more that we can cultivate that curiosity and wonder about what happens, the less we're trying to inform it from a place of a program that we've been, gotten through either the, fake real news, the fake true news, or, or whatever you want to call it. Like they're all fake news because they're all constructs that somebody created that's outside of us. And so that, while there might be tidbits of information that are true, the more that we can get towards curiosity, the more we're open to these synchronicities, the more we're going to start to land in that state of wonder that allows, the magic to pour through. And then from that state, like once we're in a solid place of curiosity and wonder about the magic of the world that we live in, then these natural synchronicities of reaching out to Betsy so that, and she just happens to be publishing this book that's like, oh, all about taking life by the horns, like that's perfect and divine in the moment for me and where I'm at in my life right now. And that happened because I'm curious about what's going on. And like, had my head told me, had I thought about it, like it would have just been like, oh no, Betsy's doing her thing. And like, she's over in a different state and like what, but it was like, no, just reach out and be curious about what wants to emerge, because that's what that is. It's coming from an organic place. And so here we are in organic state. And yeah, so that's my message for the moment.
Well, and I just want to thank you and thank our guides and those who love us on the other side. I saw a meme that said, I can't control how my ancestors protect me. Proceed with caution. And my brother did not understand it. He was like, no. You mean how your ancestors controlled you? I'm like, no, how they protect me, not control. How your ancestors protected you? I'm like, no, how they're protecting me now. Like I can't control how like whether they have lightning bolts. You better proceed with caution. I've got protection here, right? And we all do. And so be grateful, be in a state of gratitude for it all.
Oh,
and
thank you so much.
Fear.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you for doing this with me. I really appreciate you stepping up and
I'm honored.
Yeah, it's fun. We'll do it again.
Okay,
and thanks to everybody who's listening. I'm so excited. I can't tell. I'm not used to this platform, but it looks like people have been popping in. So I'm really grateful for you all for listening and wishing you all just beautiful, sparkly, curious, and expanding days now and ever.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
I live better than a king ever did. I live